Time for our second matchup here on the B stream. I'm Intero, this is Pengu. We're going to be rolling through today as quickly as possible because we know how many games there are to get to. And
a lot.
You know you want to get to the goods. A team that surprised us all in North America, Mirage, the 4th place team in the NAL in Stage 3, will be competing against the 1st place team in the EU. And dare I say it, despite the fact that Rogue won the Berlin Major, and I know that they will be upset with me for saying this, but possibly the most consistent team in Europe, the Wolves, will be up against Mirage.
I think it's a fair thing to say because Wolves has made all 3 majors, and while domestically they've been really, really strong, even beating BDS in some stages, they don't do that well internationally. So they still have a lot to prove for themselves at this particular event.
Yeah, I don't know what it is with these French European teams that are coming in, but they just, it's not even a slight.
No.
It's just, if you look at the teams that have come out of France in Europe, there has never been a team that has truly, truly dominated. I mean, what, you can go back to Junctis.
Yeah, year 2 or
year
one,
2.
season 2.
Year 1, season 2, all the way back in, what was it, like early 2017, end of 2016, somewhere in that window. You have to go back over half a decade to find any significant measured international success. Now, BDS came awfully close. They finished 4th in the Mexico Major. They made it into the top 4 as well at the 6 Invitational in 2020. Yep. But outside of that, you have teams like BDS, and right now the team that we're talking about, Wolves, never really having that international level of success. But to be fair, and I know you're European, and I know that we are on European soil.
Choose your next words carefully.
I might be deported because of this. So if you don't see me from this point onwards, this is the reason why.
Okay.
No European teams have really been as successful as a lot of their regional counterparts in North America and Brazil over the last year and a half.
That's fair.
And so it's not just that Wolves have underperformed, it's that with the exception of Rogue winning the Berlin Major, none of these teams have really succeeded. Obviously, Empire was the outlier with them finishing 2nd at SI to TSM.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I mean, at Charlotte, you had an all-NA final. In Yavlo, we had an all-Brazil final. Brazil, in fact, dominating 2021.
Yes.
So Europe has spent a lot of time in the shade. But the sun is coming up, my friend.
It's rising. Slowly, will I say, because as you mentioned, the Empire that got 2nd place at Invite, they're not together anymore, that roster either. So we saw Rogue shine out the Berlin Major. We're thinking, Rogue, they'll make the Sweden Major as well. Guess what? They're not here to compete. So instead, we're looking towards Wolves now to see if they finally have what it takes to make it further than quarters.
I mean, and we've spoken about Wolves a lot so far, but their opponents are Mirage, a team that is, in a way, actually connected to French heritage, but French-Canadian, as this is a Northern Arena-owned team coming all the way. The organization itself from Canada, the players from America. We're going to go to Clubhouse, by the way, as it's on your screen. Very similar to what we saw out of the matchup that just transpired. CAG versus Black Dragons. Black Dragons coming in with only a single player having any international experience, and that was Ion. Well, you look at Mirage, and they also only have a single player with international experience. And it was Dexter when he competed at the Saudi Arabian event as a brief substitute for Space Station after Skies had stepped off of the team. So, I mean, even then, I think it's a bit charitable to call that international experience. I don't necessarily think it counts. So when you look at the landscape of this matchup, it's safe to say you got a team that is as green as Black Dragons are.
Yeah.
You got 5 players coming in, no real measured success, no real international competition under their belt, and a team that was actually the basement dwellers of NA for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And then they make a couple roster moves. They bring Mohesi onto this team. They bring Dexter onto this team. Kento came on a couple stages before. And to the surprise of almost every single North American enjoyer, Mirage is the team that ends up making it here. They've got a heady task ahead of them, just as Black Dragons did. But Black Dragons ended up pulling off the victory against CAG. Can Mirage repeat that success? Let's waste no time. Let's go into Clubhouse, German soil. Wolves will be starting off with their bans. Mirage will be following. Now, if the social vote overwhelmingly in favor of Wolves, that's not much of a surprise.
Not a surprise
not
at all. It seems like a given, especially that it's Clubhouse. I mean, Mirage, they're known for their individual performances, of heroic attempts of trying to solve rounds. Whereas Wolves, it's all about teamwork and team play, and Clubhouse really does favor Wolves' playstyle more than that of Mirage. Operator bans are going out. We could start with 2 attackers. It's Maverick off the board first, followed by Hibana. So we're really focusing around the hard breach capabilities of Clubhouse, which makes a lot of sense because it's all about breaching the walls or the hatches for each and every single bomb site. So when you target 2 separate hard breachers, teams have to get creative. They have to kind of work out of the norms, if you will, unless, of course, you practice in this environment frequently.
These bans so far in stark contrast to what we saw in our very first match. Obviously, these matches happen in isolation, and the bans that Black Dragons and Cyclops have in their matchup that just happened have no bearing whatsoever on this matchup. These are both teams in very different groups as well. Cyclops and Black Dragons in Group A. Now we have this Mirage Wolves matchup in Group B. Group D. Hold on a second.
Hold up.
Is that the damn Undertaker's logo? That... I'm assuming this is unreleased content, and I don't necessarily want to draw attention to it. But as a mark myself, that was the Undertaker's logo.
I believe so, but I also, as you said, I don't believe that's... I haven't seen that before.
I mean, don't snitch. If you're watching, shh, don't snitch. You didn't see anything.
Oh.
You didn't see anything at all. You don't want to go one-on-one with the Undertaker. So
that's for certain.
Either way, Wolves starting off on defense here. Again, these matches, they happen in isolation. What happened between the Cyclops and Black Dragons teams in matchup number 1 does not have an impact whatsoever right now on Group D's matchups, which is where Wolves and Mirage are currently doing battle. The operator ban's locked in. Mira was the last operator that was taken out again, in stark contrast to what we saw in matchup number 1. Not a single hard breacher was removed from action, which for a period of time was a bit unorthodox on Bank. Starting off the festivities, Rise decides to get quite creative on main stairs. Gets punished for it. Almost loses his life. Not a single point of damage done to Mirage. That could have been a triumphant start for this North American squad.
Wolves do like to play very aggressive in their domestic games as well, and Rise will often be the first member to die or get a kill almost every single round, and when you are kind of the captain of your team, that's not always a negative thing because you can make those decisions and call-outs from the grave, focusing on the overarching story and goal of the round instead of having to worry about the stress of being in the round yourselves. Mirage, good aggressive start here. Mid on the clock has been burned. They've established half the top floor. They're getting an office, they're getting a master bedroom, and Nuke is making her way throughout the map as well. So Wolves, they kind of got to scatter backwards and slowly make their way back towards that bomb site because it is in the basement.
You know, I've never actually asked you this question. Do you, as somebody who comes from the same country that the operator of Nuke comes from,
Sure.
do you take great joy being able to properly pronounce her name in a way that most of us cannot?
I do, and Nuke's like one of the arguably strongest attackers in the entire game, most banned operator right now in all of Pro League, so I take a lot of pride in the strength of the operator too.
Do you think that you like it more than Milos does?
No, absolutely not. No, Milos is like the numero uno in that regard because he takes a lot of pride in pronunciations.
That's Spanish, you can't say that.
Sure. Then I will say...
You earn that street cred just...
Han tager rigtig meget kredit i at sige tingene rigtigt.
You could have literally said anything.
Yeah, well...
You could have just sunk this broadcast.
I could have.
But you didn't.
I might have, but I didn't.
Would you like to translate for the people?
I just said that he takes great pride in saying things the right way.
Of course.
Yeah.
We love you, Milos.
We do.
We cannot wait for you to be here. This round has flown by so far. Outside of the skirmish that Rise had with an unnamed foe earlier in the round, there hasn't been a ton of action, but the little that was remaining is found by Kento's Mirage, have eased their way down the main stairs. Now come the hard breach gadgets, and an impact goes off. It seems to have been successful, maybe not. The screen shake would give it away. Shinka with shotgun primed and ready. He's waiting for the swing here in Dirt Tunnel. Melted at close range. Does he know what's in front of him? Oh, it doesn't seem like he does. Wolves get 2 on the board. They wrestle back the lead from Mirage, despite Mirage getting that opening pick. Flashes galore and chaos inside of the bomb site. Wolves finding the scoreboard more than once, and it will continue as Mirage now in the site. Dexter in particular tasked with getting anything going, and he gets something before The car stalls out. Well, it was a rough start with that first pick on Rise, but I guess it was a ceremonial first kill for Mirage because they didn't have much else after that, and Wolves on defense looking mighty good, and suddenly we are awash with the Undertaker.
Yeah, and this time there's 3 of them instead of just 2. Multiplying as every round goes by.
There's only one Undertaker.
That's true, I suppose.
Downstairs defense, by the way, for Wolves. Very typical style, shelter in place, stay in the confines of the bomb site, don't roam. You had Rise roaming, that's really it. Mirage are still going to take probably about a minute and a half to fully drone out this entire map. And then you need to have to translate that to the bottom floor bomb site. That seems to be the stumbling point for a lot of these teams. How do you then go from, okay, everything's clear, let's make this work? You got to do the song and dance inside a kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
Hard breach gadget down, avoid nitro cells, avoid impacts, avoid being shot through the floor. You got to complete that checklist, then you got to get somebody down the main stairs, you got to have Moto hatch open, likely have somebody drop from Moto, cover that angle, ensure blue is flushed out. A lot to be done, and for a team like Mirage, who are going to be playing international squads for the first time ever, they're not used to playing teams like Wolves.
No.
So you not only have to play your game, you got to play their game too.
I would say Wolves, in my opinion, is a team that gets stronger as the round goes on for, both in their attacks and their defenses. In the last 20 to 30 seconds, that is arguably where I would say the Wolves are the strongest right now. Mirage, in the hand, they're the strongest in the first minute and a half of every round domestically in the North American lead. They're quite good at getting opening kills, and they're quite good at getting an early advantage. But where Mirage falls is typically in the later stage of the round. They cannot always convert that lead or that advantage into a round victory. So I do think Mirage, they need to keep up the aggression, try and shut down Wolves early to build up a higher % chance of finding the victories in the rounds. And they're doing a good job so far in the second round too. A minute off the clock, they're already applying pressure on that extended defense from Wolves. But the real question now comes, can they pick apart the strong positions? Yeah, sure, Benji gets the opening to Rise. That's going to help out greatly. P4 now left alone inside a cash server room. He doesn't have much support because of the members of Wolves. They had to play retake.
Rise dying early is not an abnormality.
No.
Wolves, and oftentimes they need him to die for them to succeed, but unfortunately things for Wolves not going so hot. Bibu and P4 will join him in the afterlife on this particular round, leaving Mowgli and Shinka as the last 2 men standing. Avert your eyes, because it's not suitable for work. Benji's the only player on Mirage who's taken even a tiny bit of damage. The rest of the team in mighty fine form. Half of the round gone, half of it to go. A Jim execute for Mirage. I mean, they've got all the tools at their disposal. They've got Thatcher on the board, they've got Flores, they've got multiple hard breach gadgets, and they might have a flawless round on their hands as well, unless Shinka can, as a doc, apply a tourniquet to the bleeding. There he is. Down goes Dexter, but it's not a secure, not yet. All the while, Kento gets the diffuser down. They know that the dock is positioned inside of logistics. That's a secure. Diffuser goes down. No flawless round for Wolves, but Shinka on the retake. We stop for 20 seconds of the 45-second timer as that Goyo canister burns in front of him. Overheal potential is still here for Shinka, by the way, if he wants to. You've got those darts in pocket. Doc obviously getting a sizable buff.
Yeah.
And there's the overheal, but not by that much. Just priming himself good and ready. Flashed out as they know his position inside of construction. He's got too many targets to prioritize. And the Azami barrier is actually working against him as he has to retake against his opponents. Mirage take their first round, comes in the second, and we've tied it up.
And it really shows the story that we're kind of setting the tone for, is that the early round for Mirage is where they shine, and the late round for Wolves is where they shine. But when you lose 3 members in the first minute, it doesn't matter how good you are in the later half, you don't have enough manpower to hold your ground or really fight back. So Mirage need to keep applying the same pressure point in the same way as you just did in that previous round on this bar attack as well. Wolves, specifically Rise, might need to be more cautious of how early of an engagement he takes, because as you mentioned, Barker, he usually dies first. That is not an abnormality for this squad, but in this particular instance, Mirage might just be able to abuse that situation against them. Rise is playing a Warden right now, which can be a crucial operator later on, depending on smoke grenades and flashbangs and how they get utilized from Mirage's side. It will be an extension up above. vertical angles for the bomb side. Of course, there's information, both the Maestro and the Valkyrie cameras as well. This means that you can play the entirety of this bomb site from the top floor because of that verticality, basically covering every single angle. Mirage, they have a tall task ahead of them. They gotta figure out how they want to attack this, clear the top floor, leave it alone, rush the bomb site, or just clean out one half and then try and plant horizontally on the other.
This cheeky little drone getting into position. And now by Benji. Benji Mula. Mr. Cash Money himself. Very impressed with Mirage on the previous round.
Yes.
Almost a perfect one, too.
I mean, sure they lost the member, but that's like as perfect as it gets almost, right? Like they played the first minute and a half flawlessly.
Quick opening pick, snowball from there, take out most of the major threats, isolate the remaining threats in a position that you know is almost impossible to retake from. While you're doing that, don't lose the plot. Time and time again, we have seen teams at the highest level of play tunnel vision. Oh, there's 2 more players left. Well, I can't possibly get that diffuser down. There's 4 other people to watch. Even if there's a Nitro cell, even if they come from an angle you're not expecting, you can trade out at that point. You should have a good understanding of where they're going to come from. Get somebody to get that diffuser down. Mirage got that done. A lot of inexperienced teams, believe it or not, are incapable of doing that. Now, that was that round, though. There's a good Evil Eye Cam, or Black Eye Cam, rather, set up. Evil Eye Cam set up as well from Wolves in these cheeky spots, giving information as to where Mirage is coming from on this bar stage defense from Wolves.
Looks like Mirage are opting for that half clear. So what they do is they take server and cache, they open up that wall towards construction. That gives them construction control. They hatch that overseas stage right below us. As long as they have this area, without Mowgli being aggressive, they can basically plan, but Mowgli knows this, so he's going to aggress with Rise and try and take back this ground.
Why not? Rise has been the first one to die for his team. Oh, could still be the first one to die for his team. Nope, it's Mowgli who does it before he gets Benji. Teams trade out. You've lost one of the hard breachers for Mirage. There is an insurance policy there in Mo Hesse, but Mo, who's had a very quiet matchup, has no access to any exothermics. All the hard breach has been used. Smokes will go out, and there's the diffuser being planted by Melted. Mo will be the one to cover on over. Melted is not usually the player who's going to get the diffuser down, but why not go for something a little bit different and put Wolves on their back foot? Rise finally falters. He's down. The remaining players from Wolves not close enough to the diffuser. They'll need to get within arm's reach. Ibu has a distraction as that Nitro cell goes out. The retake will be especially troubling. Half of the diffuser worked away at this point. Wolves have firepower at their disposal, and Shinka will go in and pre-fire, taking down Kento. He and P4 side by side. Mo with the long range. He's got the good read. There's a much heralded pickup for Mirage, and in his first international matchup, that's a pretty good round to have as the rest of the team does their work to ensure that Mirage takes 2 in a row and gains the lead.
One of the things that really fell apart there for Wolves is that Rise is on the Warden, which is a very crucial operator for the plan because of those smoke grenades, right? We know that Mirage, they like to play the Thermite. They did it domestically in North America. They did it in the first 2 rounds as well. And of course, in the first 2 rounds as well. So of course in the third they will do it too. So Rise getting that kill on the Warden, or helping Mowgli get a kill rather on the Warden, and then choosing to stay aggressively on the room above is a bit troublesome because the only real bomb site denier that you have outside of like information like Black Eye Cams and Evil Eyes is the Warden, who can see through smokes, but he's not in a position to use that gadget correctly. Therefore Melted gets that diffuser planted, and then you're playing the retake post-plant, which is so difficult on pretty much any single map in Rainbow Six Siege. And that really is the story for Mirage. If they can keep on figuring out the weaknesses in these rounds for Wolves, they can find those moments of success. Mo, extremely clutch player, the IGL and support player of Mirage, plays an aggressive role himself once he's enabled, right? Once he gets those exothermic charges off, once he gets the bomb down, if he is the planter, he can get very aggressive. We saw it previously, he gets 2 kills for his team, secures it, locks it down. Dexter, when Mirage goes on the defensive side, he's normally the player that I look to as like the star player, always looking for openings, always looking for a way throughout the map. Wolves, of course, we always talk about Mowgli, because he gets everything done all the time. Got a little bit too cute in the previous round, jumped over that railing and just got shut down immediately. A bit unnecessary.
I mean, yeah, but where does he go? There's 2 players from Mirage.
You stick around.
Yeah, I guess.
You find, like, Rise was sticking around, help Rise stay alive. Either way.
He needs all the help he can get.
Yeah, he does. Either way.
0-3, not the first to die, but good leadership for the team. What was it? He went like 0-11 or something like that.
Yeah.
At first EUL match in stage 1 or stage 2, and then bounced back by...
Had a big game.
Yeah, had a big game, and then ended up like almost topping the charts in EUL for that stage, which is an impressive spot to be in. Damage has been done to Kento, but he finds Mowgli.
Yeah. Mirage
have either gotten the first pick or traded within surrendering that first pick right away. There has been no advantage for Wolves. And as P4 tosses out the Nitro Cell and manages to rip it right before he dies, Melted punishes him for that. Mirage were unsuccessful on this bomb site before. Things fell apart in Dirt Tunnel. Things fell apart when they tried to take Kitchen. That's not the case right now. 5v3 for Mirage, looking mighty fine, but Rise catches Mohesi. Unbeknownst to Mirage, still from above, and Rise pulls off 2. Suddenly the numbers are back into a 3v3. Excellent position, and Rise showing his worth and value on this team.
Yeah, the roam works out. I will say, Melted did a great job getting behind enemy lines and got the kill and got right back out the building to stay alive. But then Rise, he recognized we need to find a way back into this round. Gets those 2 kills, still active on the roam, and now with a minute to go, Mirage, they have to figure out either where Rise is, ignore him, or shut him down. Members of Wolves can hold on tight. They got those Goyo canisters as well to stall for time. Rise can play his card slowly, but chooses to aggress. It gets punished by Dexter. It's a 3v2 with 40 seconds on the clock.
Mirage are in much better shape as they want to push into the bomb site. Their one impediment is Bibu. And he collapses onto Melted. Dog piles him. Benji's just a little bit too far to be able to do anything with it. Bibu sustaining some damage in the process. A single bullet or 2 from Mirage will be enough to put it into a 1v2 for Wolves. This is perfect timing. That Goyo canister goes off at exactly 20 seconds. That means that your pathway in has been blunted, but Benji's found another avenue. He's got the diffuser down. Telltale sound of the case going off. Bibu, what little was left is gone. Shinka, but sneaking up! Shinka can pull off some heroics. It's him and Benji. Look at Shinka's face. All business. Ice in his veins with that SMG-11. Tip-tapping away, only a couple bullets. Shouldering it off. 5 left. Go for a reload. Benji still in this spot. Can Benji pull it off? Yes, he can. Cash that Benji check in the bank, ladies and gentlemen. 3-1 in favor of Mirage.
Benji Mola is here to play, but the frustration when you're Shinka in that position with SMG-11, you only got 17 bullets to work with. You know he's going to be a 1 HP because you hit him earlier on the round, and he can't find the angle because the sidestepping back and forth with that bulletproof pantry, basically, between them. It shuts down that opening, and therefore Wolves, they fall in a round that was so clutchable and oh so close. And Shinka, that one's going to hurt. Wolves, they call a tactical timeout to figure out how they can find these next 2 rounds and end the half 3-3, because right now Mirage, they're stealing the show.
Yeah, this is rough for Wolves when you look at the landscape of this matchup. You know, you've got your usual high performers right now just ultimately falling short. I mean, you're used to Mowgli, you're used to P4 topping the charts. It's not happening at the moment, and obviously we're still quite early into the matchup. Only 4 rounds have gone by. Clubhouse tends to have the distinction of being a defender-sided map, and I think that's why Wolves are a little bit concerned.
Yeah.
With Mirage taking 3 of these 6 rounds, the best that Wolves can accomplish is a draw before they switch sides. If the general stats of Clubhouse hold up, that means that Wolves will not have a lead when they go onto the side that is harder. Obviously not. You don't need to be the greatest 2-time world champ named Nicholas Maritzen to know.
I don't know why
you don't need to be Pengu to know that you want to win the more favorable side. For Wolves, if we assume that defense is still the favorable side on Clubhouse,
yeah,
which I think is a fair assumption.
Yeah, I mean, statistically for Wolves in UL, they are also winning more rounds on defense than attack, so even there it's to get supported.
It's a bad spot to be in for Wolves.
Yeah.
I understand Lilun calling that timeout, trying to settle the team down. This has happened to Wolves before, though. They have had sluggish starts at previous international events and have been able to recover, but a lot of times that recovery comes a little bit too late, and it isn't enough to put them in good position to either make a run in the playoffs or make a deep run in the playoffs. And we've seen Wolves go home a bit prematurely for what they are capable of. When you are the #1 seeded team out of Europe, there is an expectation, and I think a very fair expectation, that you will make the playoffs.
Yeah.
If the Wolves do not make it out of their group, then they are falling very far short of their expectations and their fans' expectations. And this is a competitive group.
It is. Group D sitting on Wolves, Dire Wolves,
Two Wolves.
FaZe. Yeah, two Wolves.
Two Wolves.
FaZe and Mirage. So when you look at that, well, losing to Mirage right now is like, well, then you gotta go up against FaZe and Dire Wolves after that, and you gotta make top 2, not top 3, which means, well, there's a high likelihood all of a sudden that you're gonna have to fight tooth and nail to just have a chance to qualify. This minute has flown by as we're defending Gym right now. Mirage have slowed things down and gone for a more utility-heavy lineup. Melted on the floors off that operator of Nuke, bringing double Heartbreach, Thatcher and Thermite to open up the right walls that they require, and slowly making their way throughout. Wolves did a good job here. They started on the roam, they fell back as early as possible so that they did not suffer any casualties. We will see this round play out 5 versus 5 with almost only a minute left on the clock. There is going to be one C4 in the pocket of P4 that could be used vertically with those Valkyrie cameras, but P4 themselves is currently on the bomb site. Could of course drop that hatch at any moment's notice. It's a waiting game right now. Mirage have to make the first step. Wolves, they just gotta hold on and defend.
I want to talk to you about this in the next round. I'd like to do it now, but action could start at any moment, so... Mowgli pulls, and down goes Kento, and multiple players from Mirage as he finds a third pick. When we talk about the superstars of Wolves showing up, Mowgli having a huge round, rewarded at the hands of Mohesi, leaving Melted as the last, and it's P4 to pick up the final 2 kills. What did I say? Action could happen at
Any
a moment's notice, and it did, in fact, happen. Now, here's the question that I wanted to ask you. Is there any particular reason why with a Maverick and a Hibana ban, and Kaid still up, Mute still up, Bandit still up, why we are not seeing a defense of that CCTV cache bomb site?
That is a great question. I personally am a huge fan of it. I know a lot of pro teams in the current meta, they are not. They prefer bar over CCTV, you know, because the bar bomb site has really been fundamentalized, where it's now a playable, viable bomb site. And honestly, I think Rogue at the Berlin Major was one of the big front runners. Also, FaZe from LATAM, where they play the bomb site internationally, they show it can work, they find success, other teams go, huh, maybe it's not that bad anyway. And then CCTV, you know, ever since Maverick was released, has slowly been one of those, this bomb site kind of sucks. But you are correct. With Hibana and Maverick both being banned, you can play that Kaid banding situation, try and trick around those EMPs. And there is this strat back in G2 that we had that was called the EMP economy strat, which means that you play the Bandit, the Mute, and the Kaid, and you play around the fact that there's only 3 EMPs, but you got 4 Bandit batteries, 2 Kaid claws, 4 Mute jammers. You can easily trick around that piece of utility and make it a puzzle-solving round for the opponent, whereas Mirage, they're not known to be good at problem-solving in the NAL. They're great for their gun skill and playing together and playing off one another. So if you give Mirage a very big puzzle that's very complicated with a 3-minute timer, that could really work in Wolves' favor. But of course, looking at the rounds and looking at how Wolves is choosing their bomb sites, that's not necessarily how they want to play the game right now. They want to challenge and fight Mirage on the ground they're both comfortable at.
So, after the timeout, it's nice to see that it pays off for Wolves.
Yeah.
And
it's a clean round. Somewhat clean round.
It's a clean bird. That's what we call it.
It's a clean bird.
That's a clean bird, as we call it in the business. Mowgli with the fade away, doing some extensive damage to Kento before escaping the premises.
Reloading.
You got to be very careful that he's not lying down below, and that's exactly what Mirage is doing right now as they endeavor to clear out that top floor before translating towards the actual bomb site. Another attempt for Wolves, the last attempt for them as they are down below. They've split this bomb site 50-50.
It's Slow round again. Melted is on the nuke, which doesn't really grant you much of a benefit this round because, again, the roaming presence from Wolves is sacrificed, or rather surrendered, early in the round. And I think they realized, especially with that tactical timeout from their coach who can tune in, saying, guys, stay alive. Don't play so aggressive all the time because we're losing those engagements. Rise especially, just fall back 20 seconds earlier than usual and we'll be looking fine. And once again, same story. It's a 5 versus 5 with about a minute to go. And when that happened on that gym defense, Wolves, they came out on top.
Not a bad position for them to be in right now. Still, just again, this anchor-style defense at the bottom floor. Nick? This is the due diligence that we talked about, the checklist for Mirage. And one of those components is avoiding the explosives. Is definitely handled by Dexter as the nitro cell goes off in the wrong part of the kitchen floor. Mowgli has been on an absolute tear the last 2 rounds, and it seems to continue onwards as he finds the very first pick for Wolves. This is actually the first time all game that Wolves have gotten a first pick that has gone unanswered by Mirage. Not a bad time for that to start happening. There goes one of the secondary hard breach gadgets.
The last one, there's nothing left.
No way to open up that kitchen hatch. Things can go from bad to worse for Mirage as they force their way into the bomb site. Dexter drops Kento not too far away. Benji, the first kill for Mirage. Rise flushed out of church. A bomb site is for their taking, but look at Bibu. Look at Bibu in this position. Oh, a bit of a miss, but he pulls out the sidearm, gets greedy, and he loses it, and so does Wolves. The first half in the books. Mirage are the victors 4-2. The teams swap sides.
The round really should not have gone that way. It looked so winnable for Wolves. The shotgun got whipped out and somehow Mo came off the plant, walked back in towards Moto, back turned towards Bibu. It looked really dire for a moment, but the cover was there. And I will say, the members of Wolves swinging solo on that Moto door. Rise aggressing up with like 30 HP to take a gunfight where the attackers are waiting for you instead of letting them walk in through that door and establish a crossfire with Bibu, who's behind the bar inside of church, is one of those pausing moments for me where I'm thinking Wolves are so good at playing together and they have such good teamwork and synergy in the EUL normally. And in that round, if you showed me that round with the names of the teams and players blurred out, I would have never guessed that Wolves would make such a huge blunder on a round that was practically won by them because they played so well around the utility, denying the hot breach. The impact trade was made mid-round because there was no holes in the ceiling. Mowgli made that, then tossed the impact, and it caught Mirage off guard. They were scrambling bottom main stairs, funneling 4 members through one door, and it shouldn't work, but it did. And that means Mirage, they're up 4 against 2 on Wolves' side. So round number 7, side swap. Mirage now have to defend. In the NAL, this is where Mirage are the strongest. When they defend any map really, that's when they shine. So it is concerning for Wolves, who also statistically has a worse attacking side, at the same time, to be in this position. And they really gotta show up now and show us that Wolves are here to play and that they will make it out of groups because, yeah, sure, this is their first match. This will not define whether they're gonna make it or not, but it sure is a good indication of what skill level they'll be playing at going forward in this tournament.
Yeah, you really set the stage when you talked about Wolves' abilities on attack versus defense. I'm sure this is a team that they are very aware of their own deficiencies as well.
For sure.
So if you struggle on attack and you come to a map where in many cases the defenders have a significant advantage, or if not significant, if you want to argue over that, an advantage just in general, then there's really no way to sell it otherwise. This is a bad spot for Wolves to be in. They just simply didn't show up when they had the most favorable opportunities at their disposal. And, well, I mean, they lose Rise again, an early pick for Mirage. Continuing on with what we saw through most of this first half, Mowgli answers back. Mowgli seems to be the only performer on Wolves showing up over these last 3 rounds. And boy, what a performance it's been.
It's been good. I will credit Wolves here. They bring in triple hot breach, the ace and the thermite, plus P4 on the block has that secondary hot breach can opener. So losing Rise is almost like, as we mentioned, Wolves are used to this, right? And they bring that contingency plan where Rise can play aggressive, and if he succeeds, all is good. If he were to fall in that early engagement, there's a backup plan. That guy is P4. So even though we're playing 4 versus 4 now, we're still in a comfortable position as Wolves to attack this basement bomb site. We have enough hot breach utility to get the hatches, and the wall's open, and we have the Thatcher and Shinka. So there really is nothing stopping Wolves right now from still finding success in this round.
Those zombies that we just saw being broken by Wolves used offsite. Now, the thing with Kiba barriers is that they generate over time. So you're going to have Melted be able to use some of them down in the bomb site should he so choose, and there's still one in his back pocket. Suss out where the attack is going to come from, and you can set up a Kiba barrier last minute. Melted has soft walls in front of him. Is he wary of somebody maybe pushing through towards that pull spot? We could very easily use it, and there it goes! Nade goes out, perfectly timed. And that will blunt the advance of Wolves, but for a moment or so. Oh, Mowgli's down, but he gets traded out by Mohesi. Down goes Kento. It's a push from Wolves in towards Church. This is where all the damage was done from Mirage in the past. Diffuser in the hands of Shinka, but he's watching his team fall by the wayside. Mohesi picks up a second kill. And as the timer hits 0, Mirage is aware of the tricks of Wolves. Right now nestled very firmly inside a Church. They're lighting each other up. Benji got the very first kill of the round. He might get the second last. Shinka in a 1v3. Diffuser still going away. Oh. Cross body, and Shinka picks up 2. One more to be found into Benji. 8 and 3 in hot pursuit. He has to make a lot of noise. Suppressor's quiet, but he still hears the Tracers go. Will he stick it? Pops off, expecting it, but he's running out of time. This is being played perfectly by Shinka, but Shinka just needs to waste time, and the clock will give it. No matter what happens, Shinka kills himself to the electricity. Benji knows there's nothing you can do. Well played by both teams as the cat and mouse game goes in favor of Wolves, and they win their very first attack.
And Shinka kind of gets his chance at redemption, right? Because he had that 1 versus 2 earlier, also on basement on the defensive side, where it looked like he should have won it, but then he lost it. And now in a 1 versus 3, it looked like he shouldn't win it, but then he won it. So a huge round pickup for him as an individual, and of course, Wolves, they get a round on the board as well. It seemed like Mirage was under the impression that there was no way that the Wolves could have planned on that round because they're playing so far back in the bottom side, waiting for the timer to hit 0, and the moment it hits 0, they go, wait, they're actually planting. We're into this quote-unquote overtime round situation where even though the timer is 0, if the plant is going down, the timer extends, and it was kind of a panic moment for them, running towards the objective. They found that initial kill. They were in the 1 versus 3, and I won't even say that Mirage played it poorly. I'll say that Shinka played that really well. He was actively engaging in those 1 versus 1 gunfights and finding a moment for himself where, with a split-second decision-making, if he makes the right choice and hits his shot, he can put himself in a winning position. That's exactly what he did, and once the 1 versus 1 was enabled, he played it smart. He recognizes, I don't have to get the final kill. I can play off time, sprint around, make some noise, shoot when he starts defusing, and if he shoots back at me, I just stay here. And therefore, he won the round easy peasy. Even though the electrified wall was a problem, it was a problem at a time where the round was won for him. It didn't matter. Beautifully done for Shinka.
This has been a seesaw when it comes to the bomb sites. It's the 4th time that we've seen that bottom floor bomb site get brought out. Mirage won it twice.
They zapped it.
They did. Mirage won it twice. Wolves won it twice. Mirage, so far, both their victories come on attack. Obviously, we'll watch the rotation as it continues to develop. We've still yet to see a CCTV cache defense. Again, we talked about this earlier in the first half as to why that's happening. Over to Jim as the secondary bomb site for Mirage, same as it was for Wolves.
That it is. Mowgli sitting on that bottom middle stairs, just awaiting an enemy to run into his crosshair, perhaps. With Mirage, in similar fashion of Wolves, they've surrendered that early extension and are now back towards the bomb side. The difference here is, well, they're bringing the Frost, which really favors if the attackers goes for a window execute, but there's no real anything, like there's no castle to deny the windows, there's no traps or banshees to slow enemies down. You do have 2 C4s that you could use at your disposal, but with all the members in their current positions, and of course Wolves being so far off the bomb side, we're not going to see that actively in play anytime soon. It's a minute and 15. Decisions from the attacking side still has to be made, but it's looking good if you look at the timer and where we are in the round. P4 rotating around towards the window side. apply some pressure towards the bomb side and limit how much defenders can move around. Melted on this Jaeger on middle of master bedroom on the mattress is a vital member because his position controls everything. The door to construction, the window jump in, the gym jump in as well. And that's exactly what Wolves has to worry about first if they can.
Suppressor meta still dominating right now. This round has flown by, 40 seconds. First kill goes to Mowgli, continuing on as is tradition, but speaking of tradition, Mirage trades it right back, and we are going to just see bloodshed occurring in close quarters and in quick succession. It leaves Shinka in a 1v2 as everybody in the server clears out in the span of 5 seconds. Shinka's still in this spot. Thank goodness for Wolves that the diffuser is in the hands of the last player standing, so there is no retrieval that needs to be had. But Shinka looks the wrong way, pulls off a miraculous shot onto Benji. Mohesi just needs to live, and there you go. Fall back. Diffuser going down. Now Mohesi can get into the action. It's on 0. Mirage win the round as Mohesi gets the final pick. It's 5-3 in favor of the North American team.
Watching a Shinga versus Mo 1 versus 1 is always going to be a great sight, I think, because they play the game in a similar fashion where they're not what we classify as mechanical players where they will work off their gun skill even though they are good shots. They are smart players, as we can say. They play off intuition, game knowledge, and information, right? So when Shinga played the 1v3, when it came down to the 1v1, he ran away for time. When Mo was in the 1 versus 1, he was like, well, he has the plant, I have information, I'll just run to server cache. Either he chases me, time runs out, he goes to a plant, timer hits 0, I get a free kill. They both play the game about the numbers, right? The consistent approach to a clutch into a round, and we have a little smiley face melted. Very nice. The reason why you see teams like shoot open a single hole in this wall, by the way, is because it helps with the sound propagation from the outside to the inside. If you just reinforce the wall like normal, you can't really hear what's going on outside that wall, but by opening a shotgun hole first and then reinforcing it, it actually makes it easier to hear the exothermic charge being placed, if an EMP is getting cooked in your hands, or a summer charge goes out. And it's especially important for that bandit trick, which the CCTV bomb site allows for, and that's because we're seeing this bomb site for the very first time. We are just seeing the bandit. There's no kite or mute follow-up, so we can't play that dance between the exothermic charge, the Selma charge, and the EMP. And Wolves, they now have the challenge in front of them. Can they solve the problem successfully without wasting too much utility? And will Melted stay alive and be up for that task? Because bandit tricking, it's a simple concept, but it's hard to execute at this level.
Welcome aboard, everybody, from the A-Stream, by the way. A-Stream is just, well, they're burning through it.
They're going through it fast.
They're burning through it. They were ahead of us when it comes to game number 1. They were ahead of us when it comes to game number 2. Dev and Mandy, exceptionally talented casters. We're great to have, or we are very lucky to have them here, and it's great to have them here. I'm sorry that you, Stream A folks, don't get to hear as much of them as you'd like, because the teams that are competing seem to want to give Dev and Mandy an early day. Either way, welcome aboard all those of you who are watching the FaZe versus Dire Wolves matchup. Obviously, again, for those of you that are tuning into the B-Stream from the very start, we're not going to spoil that active match, but it is already over. If you're interested in the scoreline, you can seek it out for yourselves. Different Wolves on the screen.
Yes, important to note.
Hopefully you're dog people. Who knows? Either way, the results right now for these Wolves not going as they had hoped for. They've already used their timeout. But in terms of the fancy stats, the complex stats, things like plants, clutches, opening picks, etc., Mirage have been significantly a better team, and the scoreboard right now certainly aligns with that and shows it that Mirage has been the better team in terms of winning these rounds as well.
Yeah. And as again, Wolves now in the 5 versus 5 position with a minute and 10 to go. They don't have any openings yet. I like this rotation. EMP goes around, so does the Thermite. Is Melted there with the bandit trick? I believe not. So the Wolves should... No. Second EMP goes out, and this time the wall gets opened up. So a bit of a bait back and forth. Wolves, with a minute to go, has opened both sides here. Construction side and CCTV breach. Now the members of Mirage are stuck in really bad positions or in corners where it's hard to fight back. And Wolves, they can slowly start setting up for a plan because the only thing stopping them are the 2 toxic babes from the side of Mo. And they're going to run out rather soon.
Oh, it's 40 seconds left. Time for the action to come in. Mowgli has been triumphant when it comes to these opening picks, but it's Bibu's turn. He doesn't have much left for Wolves. They lose P4. They lose Shinka as well. Dexter in this position, but there's Mowgli suddenly putting in huge work with 3 kills. Mirage could have moved to match point. It still can happen, but Bibu with 2 and Mowgli with 3 in the middle. That's a full house for Wolves. That's a full house for you, Jim. It's for real estate. Wolves end up winning it on attack, and it's close. Mirage will use their timeout. Wolves used it earlier in the first half. It's time for Mirage to settle themselves down. When the timeout was taken for Wolves, Mowgli was 1-4. He is now 11-8. That is a much better performance from the person on Wolves that we are so often accustomed to topping the charts. Benji, meanwhile.
Oh boy.
He's not stealing checks. He's cashing checks.
Yes, cashing checks.
'Cause right now he has the best KD in the server. Both of these players topping their respective teams, sitting at 11 kills. It really has been the day of individual heroics.
It has been so far. And it's still early, of course, but that's the story right now, where individual players they shine and they find these moments in the round where they carry their team forward literally on their backs. I mean, look around what you saw. Mowgli walked up red stairs, killed 2 members of his FMG. Second, Deagle came out, got a 3rd kill. All of a sudden, Wolves are on the bomb side. They start planting and they start getting things done. Last member was stuck on the catwalk rafters from Mirage, could not get any way back into the bomb site because Bibu was on that CCTV breach rappel. It's a hard angle to fight back against. Mirage will change their bomb sites. They went church, gym, CCTV, and now on their 4th defending rotation, they will show us their bar bomb site instead, which seems to be a more stable bomb site than CCTV in the current given meta. I like the fact that they're bringing both the Echo and the Maestro. I love the fact that they're bringing out the castle barricades because that's going to help you stall for more time up in that top floor part, as the windows can be barricaded off, so can doors if you were to choose that instead. And it means that Wolves just have one more step on their to-do list to really take care of before they can move forward in the round. It also means Rise was normally a very aggressive player doing the entry job for Wolves. Now has to walk around the map with his hammer, opening up those castle barricades, or force other members to use their utility instead to do that same exact job. So Rise might even be a bit limited on where he spawns. We see him right now spawning construction, take care of the missiles window first, go on the roof, get the office hatch opened up, and then he might even go towards the construction window after. Although, as I say that, it has been opened up by the Ash charges instead. As Mowgli said, I'll just do it myself. It's a bit faster and more efficient. Bibu's going to check in there for the bandit trick. Fake puts it down, doesn't hit the bandit, knows he isn't there to trick it, and then it goes on the second time. Could be a rush.
And it absolutely is. You called this one correctly. Dexter, the first one to find Wolves. And the rush, well, it doesn't exactly work out the way that they want. Rise dives on in, finds a kill on to Benji. It's Bibu and Rise to hold this one together. Mohesi's been downed in the midst of the chaos. His Yokais will still persist. Diffuser will need to be retrieved. Wolves went for broke, and it might be Mirage who emerges as now the small bit of shrapnel from that Nitro cell is enough to take out Rise, leaving Bibu as the last player from Wolves. What can he put together? Tons of time if he wants to work with it. Mohesi had been downed, so that wasn't technically that impressive a kill. Oh. That one is on the melted though. And now it's the final boss of Mirage. Dexter.
So match point. Minute and 20 seconds. Now if you're Bibu, which Bibu himself is in this case, very experienced player, all the way from console to PC, he will take the time that he needs, set up his drone, gain information, and make a decision based off knowledge more than game sense, because Dexter could be anywhere on this map. He could be top floor, as Bibu is pondering about. He could be waiting in lounge as a castle barrack in front of him. What we know, that Dexter has no C4, but Bibu has basically no health left. He does have 3 flashbangs.
I mean, when you look at the SMG-11, high fire rate, low damage, but not so low that it won't kill Bibu in one shot. There are still Evil Eye cams up. There are still Yokais up. And as you can see right now, 3 players from Mirage are sitting on an Evil Eye cam. They're going to give this information to Dexter. And they've just lost some of it. So now what do? You go to the Yokai, which is where Benji is on. Tools that work against the attacker are still up. Might have they just lost some of them. Dexter called into action. Forces Bibu off of the plant. flash goes out. Good patience from Dexter. Will it be rewarded? Will Bibu take the engagement? It certainly looks that way, but Dexter wins it. Tense moments. Mirage move to match point.
They do. Bibu not confident to stick the plan when he saw the run out there from his stock into the kitchen hallway. And again, Bibu being 1 HP will be the difference maker in most cases for most players about how you play that 1 versus 1, because the confidence is likely not going to be on your side to take that engagement, because as you mentioned, Parker, the SMG-11, high fire rate, sure, low-ish damage on range, and it has relatively high recoil, but all you need is a single stray bullet anywhere in the body of Bibu, and he will fall to the ground. Some pro players, actually, fun fact, will play with their health bar taken off the HUD so that they cannot see how much health they have. Because if you're an injury player, you cannot doubt yourself when you walk in through a door being, oh, I have 20 HP, I might die. No, you can always die in Rainbow Six Siege. Full HP is still 1 single shot to the head. So by removing the health bar, some injured players in pro play have found more success and more confidence in themselves, because you're technically always full HP, but you're also technically always 1 HP. That's something that Uno himself, who's also at this event from Heroic, he actually used to play with that sitting off, back when he was on my team at least, and he still might do. If Bibu didn't in that scenario, he might have benefited from having that setting off. Would it have changed the round? Maybe, maybe not. But at the very least, if confidence is an issue for you, it might help you in those moments.
Well, Mirage in their international debut, and an international debut for pretty much everybody on this team. Again, there's an asterisk when it comes next to Dexter's name, because he did technically play that event in Saudi Arabia. But I know that whether you consider that a full bit of international experience, up to the same level as a major, I can definitively say that it is in no way or no planet the same as a major.
Agreed.
That this is these are really the major reps that you're getting in, and Mirage have kind of mighty good performance so far. A lot of games are often determined by who really makes the fewest mistakes. And I gotta say, from what I've witnessed in this match, and you're the expert between the two of us, so feel free to disagree with me on this, there's really not been a lot of glaring mistakes between these teams. There's been a very scrappy matchup, and there have obviously been issues that have been present, but nothing really stands out to me as being catastrophically wrong.
No, I think the only isolated instance was that basement defense by Wolves, where Rise swung the door and sacrificed people behind him, basically. But that was a blunder from Wolves. But besides that single moment, this has been a back and forth where teams are playing well, but just one team playing a little bit better and getting those final kills. Also, we've had a lot of close rounds, 1 versus 1s, 1 versus 2s, etc., which speaks to just how close this match has been. Sure, it's 6-4 for Mirage, but 3 or 4 of these rounds could have gone to either team. The story right now is that Mirage are in a position to win this outright. They do have a little bit less health on the board. Dexter took a bit of a damage earlier when he fought Rise, but Rise stays alive. Last time the Wolves attacked this bomb site, they started off with Rise dead in the grave. They now have more Heartbeat's destruction to work through this map and through this bomb site in particular, which is very important. You got Moto Hatch, Kitchen Hatch, Church Walls, Dirt Walls, and the Blue Hatch as well. So now, because you have every single member alive, you can open everything up if you want to, because Stature is still on the board from Shinga as well.
Inching ever closer to this bomb site. With 45 seconds remaining, Mirage could win their very first international event. And there's a soft wall to be had that'll now open up. Wolves spying that, they're hungry. It's P4 to start things off. The slaughter comes. Down goes Dexter. He didn't have a lot of HP working with, to be fair. Now Wolves will have to tackle Church. Rise getting softened up. Down goes Melted Kento now as well. Suddenly, Wolves are absolutely winning it, but Mo pulls off a 2-piece in his position, and he has control of the diffuser. Rise is waiting out the plume of smoke. Down goes Mohesi. Benji will need to clutch, and he's deep inside of the bomb site. Missing out on the opportunity to take care of Rise. Bibu will need to watch. Where does Benji come from? Firing away. The Thermite knows. Benji, you've got some nerves. You can win this right now outright, but Wolves won't let it happen. It's not a lone wolf. There's still 2 of them, but the Wolf Pack answers back. And we're going to need all 12 rounds yet again, Nick.
That we are, and I mean, I want to say that when I said earlier that the Wolves are the strongest at the last 20 to 30 seconds left in the round, this round is exactly what I'm referring to. They're walking through Moto Thor, 3 members, they trade, but they trade so well that they don't even lose more than 1 member in that position. Sure, Mo got that great flank, got the double shotgun kill, but then he was stuck inside of Moto with no information to work with, and Dexter, his only teammate, is stuck in the back of B-bomb side with no help as well. So they're isolated in weak positions, and Wolves, they exploited that. Rise had 1 HP left as he was running through the bomb site with that diffuser in the 1 versus 2. But 1 HP means he is still able to run. He's not on the ground just yet, and that's all Wolves needed. Mowgli sitting on 12 kills, followed by Bibu on 10. On the side of Mirage, we're looking at 13 from Benji, followed by 11 from Dexter. Dexter, phenomenal player on the defensive half. That's really where he's shown up so far. Finding so many openings in the mid-round, finding 1 or 2 kills, stalling Wolves' attack, and buying time for himself. Now we're looking at gym defense. This could be the final round, and it will guarantee be the final round of regulation, that's the case, because then we enter overtime if Wolves were to come out victorious. No real change operator-wise. We're seeing the same defenders being brought out. We're seeing the same attackers being brought out. Rise plays either the Ace or he plays the Dokkaebi. This time around, Sledge isn't on the board. But the thing is, neither is Castle, so you don't necessarily need that Sledgehammer as much as you did the previous time around. Instead, enable your fraggers of P4 and Mowgli by giving them those Dokkaebi calls to then expose the positions of Mirage and then give them that sound cue to work off of before taking that gunfight confrontation. It's gonna be a slow start for both teams here.
I gotta say.
Yeah?
Win, lose, or draw, Mirage putting in an impressive performance for their very first chance at this. Benji botches the bandit tricking that they're doing. And look at this. Wolves are off to the races yet again. This is the same thing they did before. But it's Wolves to persevere and come out ahead of that engagement. They were blunted by Mirage last time around, but behold thy fields of killing. They are not bare. They are fruitful, my friends. Melted in a 1v3. Kento might be retrievable. Melted is inside a cache. He'll have Kento. Just move his body on over to him. Pick him up. Rise, Shinka, and Bibu sitting on top of that diffuser. Time working away. There goes Kento. Now it's Melted. Can he stave off overtime and perform what might be the finest clutch of his career? Starts with 1. 2 more to be had. I know exactly where he is. Long range. Bibu's going to send us to overtime. Wolves close the gap in a hurry. And we need at least 2 more rounds to solve this.
I can't believe they did it twice. I mean, when you see a rush like that or any sort of like pocket strat that's very unorthodox, we always say in Pro Play, it works only 1 time because the second time around, it's going to be expected and they've seen it before just a few minutes prior. But Wolves, they said, you know what? This is match point. High pressure. These guys are not the most experienced players. They're probably not going to think that we have the balls, if you will, to make the rush again, because not a single member of Mirage was even questioning the possibility of, oh, they might do. No, nobody looked at the breach. They only found out what happened when P4 was inside of office, killing 2 members at once. That's when they went, guys, I think they rushed the breach. That is huge decision-making from Wolves. And they like to play this off-pace kind of playstyle where if they see an opening, they will fully commit, and that really is the difference maker in those moments where it's a split-second decision. If somebody hesitates or doesn't follow through, it all falls apart. But they trusted the call, P4 led the charge, and he did so successfully, finding both of those kills. And Mirage, well, we saw what happened. They're stuck offside, playing retake again. That's gonna force overtime. We need to go the distance. It's gonna be Wolves on attack, following the same trend as they have, and Mirage defending first, choosing that bomb site downstairs, all the way in the depths of basement. Capcan being brought out might speak to how fast Wolves been working their way through the map, or just the fact that if they roam a bit more aggressively, they might be burning enough time where Wolves to speed up their roam clearing process, and therefore might hit a trap or 2 in that mid stage of the round. Kento hiding inside of a cache, waiting for that garage member of Wolves to walk in, has the angle on lockdown, might do some damage, but has to hit a nice shot to get the kill. P4 thinks otherwise of it, goes to the breach instead, will not intrude through Garrett's door.
Well, you look at the way that Church has been played so far. 3 times when Wolves were on defense, and then twice when Mirage was on defense originally. So this will be Mirage's 3rd time playing. It's 6th time that this bomb site has shown up. And honestly, in terms of objective play for the attackers, they've been able to pull off the diffuser more often than not. When the Wolves defended this bomb site, they were only able to do so successfully 1 time. What a shot by Dexter.
Nice.
Dexter and Mowgli on a collision course right now. The 2 standout performers for their team, but don't discredit Benji.
No.
The last couple rounds, Benji has been heating up. Mowgli at one point was doing poorly at the beginning, started to excel. Was at a quieter last couple rounds, but Wolves have still been putting points on the board. So it doesn't matter if Mowgli fades into the shadows, if the team is capable of getting it done. Benji pounced upon by 2 separate players of Wolves, and there's now free access to this garage, which means that Mirage have to be wary of what might happen on the blue portion of this Church defense downstairs.
It's a really good collapse from Wolves, not taking that gunfight 1 versus 1, but getting 1 member in the garage door, 1 member server window. Worst case, and probably most expected outcome there, is that you trade 1 for 1, leaving Mirage still in the man lead 4 versus 3 in that case. But Wolves, they were successful. So it's a 4 versus 4 now with a minute to go. Bibu open up the motor hatch, that's his last exothermic charge. P4 still has 1 can open in his pocket, that's secondary hot breach, and Rai still has 3 Selma charges left as well. So if they make quick work of Kitchen, they can open up every single hatch. But with 30 seconds left, that might not be enough time in their mind, so they might go for a Church motor door take instead. We'll have to see.
Well, there goes the Selmas onto the Church wall. Again, this is a similar setup to what we saw from Mirage, leaving that 1 panel soft. Late keep a barrier, tossed out by Melted. Very similar again to what we saw before. So things going exactly as it has been in the past. Kento giving it an even greater advantage to Mirage. Wolves really taking their lumps, really taking their beatings. There's Bibu in this spot before, right now by Blue. He'll watch over, but Shinka gets off the plant. Mirage ends up getting all the kills right as the timer expires. And even though Wolves pushed us to overtime, it's a familiar set of circumstances as Mirage is yet again on match point.
Unironically, Wolves' attacks were a lot more successful than their defenses, which meant that them starting on attack seemed to be a really good sign for them, but then they don't win that first overtime round, and now they're on their weaker side. Now they gotta show us that at some point throughout this last half, they've, just gotten that teamwork, the synergy, the communication flowing, because you don't have any real way to improve your defenses when you're on the attack, besides just getting people up to speed and on the same page. Mirage, of course, we saw their attacks before. They like to use Melted on the nuke to get inside the building behind enemy lines, and you always wonder, is there a nuke on the map somewhere? Where is this person if there is? And then all of a sudden you get shot in the back and you think, oh, there she is. My bad for being here as a roamer. And Melted is still hovering the nuke operator. Benji is gonna go from Ace onto Dokkaebi to further enhance that roam clear, and Dexter goes from Sledge onto Bog. And this is a very classic thing for a basement attack, because Bog is a safer operator to do vertical destruction with in Kitchen, as you can do it on range instead of using the hammer up close, and you get that secondary heartbeat gadget, which you always want to bring in case your Thermodata dies, or just to really fulfill the criteria, that is, do you have enough heartbeat destruction? Because if we look away from Dexter on the Bug, we only have 2 exothermic charges. That means you can get 2 hatches or 2 walls, 1 hatch and 1 wall. That is not enough for a successful basement attack in most rounds, unless you're going for like a dirt rush or a blue rush, which typically isn't the case. I like the fact that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's and making sure that we have all the tools available to us that we need, and I like this as well. The Thatcher continues to be brought out from both teams, countering the Kaid from Bibu. It's going to slow you down and waste some utility, but it's not going to make any big differences.
Outstanding performance by Mirage so far. And honestly, you look on the right side of your screen and there's really not anybody who stands out as not performing up to snuff. I mean, it's easy to see that Kento has not been the greatest in terms of killing, but I mean...
There's more to do than killing in this game, thankfully.
Absolutely, and I mean, Kento in a lot of this match has been playing on those more support-oriented roles.
Absolutely.
Right now, he was on some drone work, getting his team in. Mohesi plays a very, almost like Kendrew-esque style of team leader slash hard breacher who's in the action more often than not. So if you have somebody like Mohesi who can perform admirably, going 10-8 on a Thermite is not something you see every day.
What you just saw there is actually a pretty big deal. Because people kite tricked the Claw, it forced out 2 EMPs from Mirage. That means they have 0 left now. So this Kite Claw on Church Wall is going to stay alive the entirety of this round, which means Mirage cannot go for a Church attack. They are forced into blue dirt and kitchen / moto hatch, which is significantly going to make the round more difficult for them because one less avenue is going to be opened up. Very small detail, massive impact.
It also allows for that rotate out of Moto as we saw it. Impacts go off, but the hatch gets opened up nonetheless. Dexter had some difficulties with this before. First kill in this round, a fateful one for Mirage as Mowgli, he was the raid boss for Wolves. He is no more. Mirage with the upper hand with 35 seconds remaining. While utility work for Wolves forced Mirage into an uncomfortable position, Mirage are still able to bail themselves out of it. Now they are running out of time, but as long as they've droned out the site, they have a good read as to where they want to go. They can start to win on these numbers down. Mohesi gets tossed out by a Nitro cell, and Melted is felled as well. Suddenly the gun's coming alive from both sides, but Wolves are not going out quietly. No 8-6 victory for Mirage. We need all 15 rounds.
We really are going a distance, and look at the social vote before this match started, heavily in favor of Wolves. Heavily.
In the 70s.
Yep.
For Wolves.
I didn't see, caster predictions. I don't know if we've done any, but if we were to do it, I'm pretty sure that the Wolves would have been massively favored as well because it makes the most sense. I mean, we're not Mirage haters. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to predict them because it's Wolves versus Mirage. And how much can you do if you're Mirage in the off time that you've had, right? Had about a month since NAL ended to where you are now. You probably took a small break and then you started grinding. Or maybe if you're Mirage, because you're kind of far behind the curve, you didn't take a break. You've been grinding throughout this entire period, getting up to speed, and it's paying off immediately in this first game. Mirage's biggest weakness in the NAL throughout Stage 3 with this current roster that you see on screen has been them repeating the same attacks and the same defenses time and time again. That means that when Mirage does a strat and it doesn't work, they have no option but to repeat that exact same thing again because their strat book was so small due to the nature of how little time the squad had together. This is only Game 1, this is only Clubhouse, we haven't seen that much from them of course, but I will say that looking at it so far, it seems that Mirage have been working on that weakness of their own, bringing multiple both attacking and defending strats, making small adjustments to player positions, and understanding, well, if Wolves change this, we should change this to counter it. And that's one of the biggest reasons why the match score is so close, because we're no longer repeating the same process. We're actually going through the motion and changing small components, and therefore we're finding success as Mirage. This is the final round. No matter what happens, the winner of this round wins the match. Both teams are guaranteed at least 1 point, that's the loser, and of course the winner takes 2. The big thing is, at the end of the day, on Wednesday, 1 point could be the difference maker in this scenario. So every single point matters. Both teams, they want this so bad.
Very well put. And I mean, we have seen time and time again groups get decided by a single point. So just being here, being able to make it to overtime is huge for the team that doesn't prevail. We are not any closer to choosing a victor. The one thing we do know is that in the next 2 minutes, one of these teams will walk away with 2 points, the other will walk away with 1. Who is it? Is it the top team in Europe who seem to consistently underperform their own expectations? Is it the team who's never competed in an international event, in Mirage, who I would argue are far exceeding their own expectations? Yeah. We don't know at all. These two teams also inhabit a group with FaZe Clan, who might not be the #1 seed out of LATAM, but they certainly play like it. And Direwolves out of APAC. The teams will trade back and forth. Wolves and Mirage both surrendering a pick. Mowgli again, dying early, but the entry from Wolves seems to be hitting its marks. Down goes Dexter. Benji almost follows. Melted and Mohesi are the two that are on Mirage at full HP. Wolves in control right now. And they'll go from the advantage that they had to even bigger.
Slowly gonna fall apart here for Mirage. They need to get aggressive and find a kill because playing 2 versus 4 is not ideal. You've lost top floor control. You can't play active on those Yokais because you're on the bomb side as Mohesi. You can't wait for Wolves to start planting. It's too risky. You need to find something here. Otherwise, it's gonna be tough. Wolves taking their time and respecting Mirage, not just going through the motions of rushing the bomb side. They're gonna find the positions, then they're gonna act.
A lot of munitions for both of these teams, but P4, well, he's woken up. It's earlier in the day, and I mean, I guess the early match doesn't help him at all, but Melted suddenly doing work himself before Bibu, one of the longest serving EU players, longest serving players ever, shuts that one down. It's the French team to prevail. Wolves 8-7, they secure 2 points. Their matchup over Mirage, but still Mirage an impressive showing for a team that's never competed at this level before.
I do like the fact that we're seeing smiles from both teams, despite Wolves having what we can argue is a weak start, and Mirage, of course, ending up in a loss. Both teams understand that they got very far in this matchup, and they arguably exceeded Mirage's expectations, and Wolves, well, they still got the dub. So both teams can take something away from this to learn, but also be happy with how it went.
I mean, no team is going to come to the major and think to themselves, yeah, we're going to get tossed out.
No.
Every team is going to come, and whether it's hubris, whether it's based on your scrims, whether it's based on whatever, you're going to think, okay, we can at least be competitive. I know Mirage has that thought in their head, and honestly, they were competitive. They came a couple kills away from toppling Wolves in their very first international match. We'll dissect this game in just a couple moments. We're going to go to a break first. We'll see you in a few. Well, Wolves ended up with the victory, but it was Mirage that stole my heart, at least, if I can try to shed my own North American bias here. As their first international match, they were still able to put up 7 rounds against the best team out of Europe. This is going to be a competitive group. You've got an unpredictable team that also doesn't have a ton of international experience in Dire Wolves, and then you've got one of the best teams that we've seen over the last 2 years in FaZe Clan, who can beat just about anybody on a good day. So the fact that Mirage was able to keep pace with Wolves is a very good sign, even if Wolves did end up getting the victory.
No, it absolutely is, because people look at this group and go, well, Direwolves goes out, Mirage goes out, Wolves face the advance, boom, done. It's not that simple.
No, not at all.
It really isn't, and that's beautiful, because if you go back 2 or 3 years in time, it was always like, this group's a bit of a sleeper, this matchup kind of sucks. It isn't like that anywhere anymore.
Correct.
I love that as a caster, as a spectator, as a fan of Rainbow Six Siege, because who would have thought Mirage goes 7-8 against Wolves?
Now,
None of us would.
we've told you time and time again that we want to avoid spoilers as much as is humanly possible. So we're sorry for what we're about to say, but I mean, cover your ears, at least for the moment, because what happened in the matchup on the mainstream was honestly, it was
Brutal?
a blowout. Yeah, I mean, we didn't actually watch the matchup, but FaZe slaughtered Direwolves 7-1.
I mean, we could tell it was going to be a slaughter because it ended when we're in like round 6 or 7 ourselves, at like a 4-3 scoreline. Yeah.
We're like, oh yeah, it's just want to let you guys know that Stream A is joining us, and I'm like, it's 5th round.
Yeah.
What happened here? Now, in their matchup today, Wolves have been a bit in the past slow to start at international events, and it's cost them in their group. Obviously, an 8-7 squeaker over a team that a lot of the public wrote off is not the result that they wanted. Wolves would have liked to have walked into this matchup 7-4, walked out.
Yeah.
Just as FaZe did to Direwolves, maybe a little bit more competitive. Now, Wolves are rewarded for this matchup by playing FaZe Clan later today. It's Mirage and Direwolves in that matchup. Now, I think these two matches are going to tell us more about these teams than just about any other matches that we're going to see today. If FaZe crushes Wolves later, then we have a very clear hierarchy on this group. And if you're wondering what's going on in the group, we have a visualization for you, so we can bring up the group here in Group D so you can actually see what all is going on. Mirage against Direwolves is the match that I am going to be keeping my eye on the most, because Direwolves are an unpredictable team because of circumstances at the Charlotte Major. Direwolves were actually in a position where they could have theoretically made it into the playoffs. Now, that didn't end up happening, but this was still a team that was on the precipice of making it out of groups. Again, it was crazy circumstances, but Direwolves are unpredictable. They've got one of the most touted prospect in Reaps here, who could make some serious noise. How do they stack up against Mirage later today? That's what I want to see. As you can see on your screen, FaZe Clan walking away with all 3 points. Mirage and Wolves, as you watched on this channel, they split the points because they went to overtime.
Yep. And I mean, overall, both teams, as you mentioned, kind of happy with that outcome, right? As you mentioned, Wolves they win, Mirage they go, a team they show that they're made out of something real. And also, one of the things about Mirage is that they haven't played many different maps in the NAL.
Correct.
They've only won on like 2 maps, I believe, like Villa and Theme Park. So them going to Clubhouse and having such a strong showing means that their map pool has also increased over time, which they really needed for this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, this is effectively an all-new Mirage squad, right? They bring in Mohesi, they bring in Dexter, they only get 9 matches. That's it with this new team. And against pretty much all odds, they make the major. Not your perennial contenders like OXG, like Dark Zero. No. It ends up being a Mirage team that time and time again, the public slept on. And honestly, the talent in North America slept on quite a lot. And if you slept on them today in your matchup, as 20-something% of you or 70-something% of you did, only 20% of you thought they were going to end up winning their match, well, it was a lot closer than we thought and a lot closer than you thought as well. Again, Wolves will be in action later today against FaZe Clan, and Mirage will be going up against Direwolves. That said, we're going to go to another group in just a couple minutes because the defending world champions at TSM are going to go up against Heroic.
Exciting.
So we're going to have another NA-EU match in just a few minutes. We'll be right back.